Kala Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Karkadash, Brakata Yahweh, Brakata Yahweh Shai Mashiach, Brakata Yasharala, Brakata Yahweh, Kala, Shalom, Shalom, Halawayah, Double honor to the apostle, nails the great millstone, pushing the teachers truth and sincerity, and overseeing the construction of the tabernacle of David, more perfect tabernacle. Shalom to the Akim, wild Boffin, scattered abroad, Shalom to sincere believers. This is Yahweh Sop, by Yasharala, by Yahweh, coming to you live through the spirit and power of Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh to give you another quick lesson. Don't really have a concept for today, so I'm just gonna pick a scripture and kind of go from there. Actually, let me hit the prologue to Sirach. All right, this is the prologue of Sirach, who is the son of the prologue of Sirach, and then also the prologue of the wisdom of Joshua. So I'm gonna start the prologue made by an uncertain author. It reads, "This is Jesus that were in not to mistake this Jesus for Yahushua Mashiach, because the Jesus being spoken about in this particular verse is actually the Hebrew word Joshua. When you translate Joshua, and when you translate the Hebrew word for Joshua, which is I think is Yeshua, into English, then it becomes Jesus. But we know that the name of the Son of the Most High is Yahweh Shai. So it says, this Jesus was the son of Sirach, and grandchild to Jesus of the same name with him. This man thereof lived in the latter times, after the people had been led away captive and called home again, and almost after all the prophets. Now his grandfather Jesus, as he himself witnesses, was a man of great diligence and wisdom among the Hebrews, who did not only gather the grave and short sentences of wise men that had been before him, but himself also uttered some of his own, full of much understanding and wisdom. So basically, the book of Sirach is just a collection of like proverbs, wise sayings. It's just the book of Ecclesiasticus, or known as Sirach, is like an advice column. You know what I'm saying? Like, you go to the book of Sirach and it gives you a bunch of advice, it gives you a bunch of wisdom, it gives you a bunch of proverbs, just stuff to live your life by, and this is important. And it goes on to say, when as therefore the first Jesus died, leaving this book almost perfected, Sirach his son receiving it after him left it to his own son Jesus. So what you see here is you have Jesus, who in this instance is being referred to as the English translation of the Hebrew word Joshua. You have Joshua, then his son Sirach, then Sirach's son Joshua. You know what I'm saying? They took it upon themselves to finish this book of Ecclesiasticus, or known as Sirach. And it goes on to say, when as therefore the first Jesus died, leaving this book almost perfected, Sirach his son receiving it after him left it to his own son Jesus, who having gotten it into his hands, compiled it all orderly into one volume and called it wisdom, entitling it both by his own name, his father's name, and his grandfather's, alluring the hearer by the very name of wisdom to have a greater love to the study of this book. Like I just said, this book is very important because there's a lot of there's a lot of advice in here, a lot of advice, a lot of instruction, and a lot of a lot of advice, a lot of instruction, and a lot of wisdom, which we need as a people. And it containeth therefore wise sayings, dark sentences, and parables, and certain particular ancient godly stories of certain of men that please God. Also his prayer and song. Moreover, what benefits God has vouchsafed his people, and what plagues he had heaped upon their enemies. This Jesus, known as Joshua, did imitate Solomon, and was no less famous for wisdom and learning, both being indeed a man of great learning, and so reputed also. That's very important, because Solomon was renowned for his wisdom. and his these three men who compiled the book of Ecclesiasticus, they're being held in that same regard. You know what I'm saying? I think I hit a scripture. What scripture is it? 30? I think it's 30. Oh, okay, I'm tripping. It's Wisdom of Solomon. I'm tripping. It says Wisdom of Solomon chapter 4, just to hit on what I was talking about. Wisdom of Solomon chapter 4 verse 2. Wisdom of Solomon chapter 4 verse 1. Better it is to have no children and to have virtue, for the memorial thereof is immortal, because it is known with God and with men. You know what I'm saying? And that's why these books of this Bible, they are very important, because these men live thousands to hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, and yet we still read about them to this day, because not only did they have virtue, but they did the will and the work of the Most High God. They followed his ordinances and his commandments, his laws and statutes. You know what I'm saying? And they were immortalized not only in these 80 books known as the Holy Scriptures, but they're also they're also immortalized in secular history. You know what I'm saying? Like these men undoubtedly lived, and Solomon is still perceived as one of the wisest men to ever walk the face of this earth. You know what I'm saying? Also, Moses. What Moses did, what he accomplished was no small feat. You know, that was very huge, especially amongst that time, because there hadn't been, according to the historical record, there hadn't been a prophet, not only a prophet but a leader amongst Israel in a very long time. You know what I'm saying? They had been in Egypt for maybe like 400 years after the death of Joseph. They became slaves in Egypt, and there wasn't a prophet amongst the children of Israel for a very long time. So when Moses came on the scene, you know what I'm saying, that was big. And then him to do the works that he did, leading the children of Israel through the wilderness, ultimately into the land of their inheritance, that was big. That's why he was very That's why he's very renowned in his world. You know, he's one of the two witnesses of the Most High. Him, Moses and Elijah, one of the two greatest prophets to ever live. Going on, now this is important right here. I'm gonna read the prologue of the wisdom of Joshua, the son of Sirach. Whereas many and great things have delivered unto us by the law and the prophets. That's very important. The law and the prophets. The prophets don't speak against the law, and the law gives way for the prophets. You know what I'm saying? Like I mentioned Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 18. It mentions it prophesies the coming of the Hamashiach Yahweh Shai. You know what I'm saying? And him radicalizing the law and us being required of the Most High to follow what the Hamashiach taught. You know what I'm saying? He taught the law, and he taught it better than anybody else could. That's why he said he summarized the whole 613 laws into 2 commandments. You know, loving the Most High and then loving your neighbor as yourself. And that's practical. I can't find any fault with that, because that's what like he said, that's what the 2 biggest commandments. That's what the whole law hangs on. For loving the Most High. When you love the Most High, you follow His laws, statutes, and commandments. I think the book of 1 John chapter 5 speaks upon that. And then when you love your neighbor, when you love your neighbor as you love yourself, you know what I'm saying, if you see him going off, you correct him. You know what I'm saying? If you see him lacking certain things, you give alms. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just, and that's ultimately that's how great nations are built. Great nations are not built on wickedness. The book of James says that speaks on that the double-minded man is unstable in all his ways, and the book of Sirach speaks on that he who is evil to himself, who shall he be good to? You know what I'm saying? If you can't treat yourself with decency, respect, you know what I'm saying, take a bath, eat good food, how are you gonna do the same for others? How are you gonna show others in the correct way if you can't do the same thing yourself?